Hello, Jeff Raspy here with you, and I have my old friend Val Emmich joining me
Uh,
today. We'll start the conversation with the potential elephant in the room, and that is the fact that you haven't gotten a haircut since lockdown started.
yeah, I was. I mean, I cut my own hair, so it's not like I can't go to the barber. I don't even have that excuse. Um, yeah, I just get bored of myself, so I try to keep it interesting.
Well, that
Yeah.
it's funny. It's funny you say it that way too, because one of the things I did to sort of ramp up for our discussion was I actually went back and listened to today the Ben Trovato album
Wow,
and the Awake Asleep EP.
brave.
Which, for anybody who's listening and doesn't know, well, Ben Trovato was not actually your first band, right? It was
No,
you were still at Rutgers,
yeah,
and I think our mutual friend Andy Gesner of Spiral Jetty is the one who uh, twisted my arm gently to come see you guys play one day, and I may or may not have ever told you this. He and I did speak after that show, and we both looked at each other, and well, he already knew, but he looked at me and I looked at him, and I was like, that kid's got something.
I never heard that. Thanks for telling me that.
Yeah, we both. I mean, Andy, you obviously as a Rutgers student, you were based in New Brunswick, and Andy's right there in South River, so it was kind of me being the interloper into the New Brunswick scene for a good part of the '90s, uh, checking out bands like Ben Trovato and Awake Asleep, and then you finally went solo. '01, '02, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, on. I
So
felt like I would have. Well, thank you for being a really expert interloper of scenes. You do it without you, it would be lonely. I'm just reliving this as you're speaking it, but yeah, I'll never forget. I had a show outside Harvest Moon, or I was standing outside Harvest Moon, which was a brewery on George Street on in New Brunswick. Um, and I had a show with my band that night, and I'm standing out there, and Mike Irato comes walking by. He was in a band called Bunt, and
mhm.
he was also I know you know this, but for those watching who don't, um, he ran this label called Childlike Records, which and I really looked up to this record label. Most of all because like they put out this album by the Milwaukee's called Missile Command. And I was like, what is that? That was the first record that really just sounded like a professional, national or worldwide band. And I was like, and I was playing with those guys at clubs, so I knew them. And it was the first time a band like sounded professionally recorded. So I really like wanted Mike secretly to sign me, but he never showed interest, and I was bummed out about it. And then that day, he was hey, what's up with, and we were chatting, and I said, I'm in the studio recording a few solo songs, and he's like, I want to release your solo music. I was like, you haven't heard it. He's like, I've been waiting for you to go solo, and he cut me a check that minute. he he cut he cut me a check for $300 and handed it to me and said, like, I want to help fund this EP of yours. I still blows my mind now. And then it was hard to go in and face my band and do a band show. And I was thinking, dude, you guys, he doesn't want you. You're my good friends. What am I gonna do?
I want to sort of jump back a bit, and I think we've probably talked about this on the air before. That before you started making music, you had perhaps the potential to be a soccer player.
No, that's hyperbole. Um, I
But what
yeah.
I was getting at was like what the story goes that is what prompted you to even start writing or picking up a guitar or something like that was you got laid up after so that you couldn't play.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to debunk this myth or not. Uh
Sometimes the
well,
story's better.
yeah, it might be. I can tell you the truth the way I now have formulated it. It's not that that story's untrue, it just leaves out some key facts. But I will say, when me and my family, my wife and my two daughters are sitting by the dinner table, we sometimes do this game where you pick this question out of this box, and sometimes it's like, if you could do any profession right now besides your own, what would you do? And I still answer soccer player. So it's not that I didn't want. It's not that I didn't want to be. It just wasn't really ever a thing. But yeah. So I had I not got Lyme disease, I probably would have all my focus would have been on soccer. So that's fair. It freed up a lot of time, and it forced me to learn the guitar that I begged my parents to buy for me, but I was so frustrated that I never bothered to learn. It was just too hard. Uh, I had made them buy me an acoustic, which now if I were to encourage someone to pick up guitar, I'd tell them to start with electric. It's a lot easier on the fingers. Um,
Hmm.
so even though acoustic is synonymous with guy alone or gal alone in their room, you think that that's what you need, but actually an electric is just a lot easier to play. Um, so I was really frustrated and wasn't playing, but getting Lyme disease forced me to. But I argue with my mom about this, and it really breaks up her. It hurts her feelings because I argue with her that, did I really have Lyme disease? And she said, of course, we got the test. I had an IV drip in my arm, and like 3 times a day, I'd have to sit in my house, and for a half hour, the
Really?
medicine would drip into my. Yeah. Now you could just take a antibiotic if it's mild, and so it was treated very seriously. But the reason I went to the hospital, breaking news, I haven't told anyone this, was because I I had a panic attack, and I didn't know what a panic attack was. I'm almost 99% sure that that's what it was, and it was because the night before I had uh, I had imbibed. I had taken a drug which I had never taken before, and I think I had my first panic attack ever. And the next day, I think I had a, a post panic attack, and so I felt my heart palpitating, and I was rushed to the hospital, and that's where I like suddenly had Lyme disease. But Lyme disease is misunderstood, and another piece of evidence about that is that I've gotten emails over the years because I seem to be the poster child in the New Brunswick scene, at
Yeah.
least for Lyme disease. So they send me emails. Hey, I know you had Lyme disease. I got it, and and they list just terrible symptoms that my heart breaks for them because I say I didn't have any of that.
Hmm.
So it could be that it was caught early and treated aggressively, and I was young enough that I bounced back, or it could be that they didn't know enough about the disease at the time. But yes, the end result is the same. I started playing rock music in earnest.
Had you done any songwriting, even poetry writing up to that point?
Just kind of diary, like venting stuff. Um, was I had a lot going on in at home, um, and so when it came time to, I remember as soon as I could play just the E string on the guitar, I wrote a song. So I had a lot to say immediately, even before I had the music to put to it. Yeah,
Yeah. So, and it's funny you mentioned a panic attack because I remember a song of yours called Panic Attack.
yeah, and
And
that was the first time I actually knew that that's what it was called. That
okay.
was, yeah. So it took, you know, graduating college and 9/11 happening for me to go, oh, that's what this thing is. And that's when that song came out.
Yeah, and it in my sort of rollback into listening to everything from from Ben Trovato on, I realized I probably had thought of this at some point in the past, but it suddenly was there in front of me as I had, 8 or 9 CDs in front of me. Um, Not necessarily the Panic Attack, but I think things that maybe sprouted off of a panic attack seem to reappear in your songs, even to this day.
Yeah.
Everything from feeling, just overwhelmed, or maybe well, actually, there was another song, Unstable.
Yeah.
And then and even something like the feeling of not. I mean, there's a self-deprecation that's I guess I would say welcome, because I mean, even though you're in a profession, actually 3 professions, which we'll talk to, or we'll speak to, where ego is kind of high on the list of things you have to be, or have. And in a lot of your songs, you tend to be self-deprecating and question whether or not, do I deserve this kind of thing. And I mean,
Yeah.
again, like I said, not necessarily that is, panic attack ish, but it's thinking that way, I think, sort of sprouts from something like a panic attack.
Thanks for close listening, because I close listen, I close read, I close watch, and I just feel at home with people who pay attention to the details. But yeah, these are things I'm only realizing now. I think that my favorite artists, and this goes for actors and writers, um, have a weird contradictory mix of ego and vulnerability. Especially when I think of actors, they somehow can be broken on camera and also have gravitas,
Mm-hmm.
so um, I don't think that they go against each other. But I remember on the this album that Mike Irata paid for, this 5-song EP, there was a song called "Try Me" opened the EP, and this was written to the girl who I was falling in love with, who's now my wife, and um, someone put me in
Wait a
touch
minute,
with like a
you've known Jill that long?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Even I
yeah,
didn't realize that. And I was
yeah,
probably there.
yeah, yeah. Um, I think someone introduced me, said, I know big time lawyer. This is before I got signed to Epic and all that stuff, and they said, I want to send it to this lawyer, music lawyer, and I said fine. And I had a phone call with this guy after he listened to the EP, and he said, I think the thing that was going to stop you from being big is um, you're like 90% there. And like, let me give you an example of what I'm trying to say, because I didn't know what he was trying to say. What do you mean 90% there? He said, this song, Try Me, you're talking about like someone taking a chance on you and this beautiful relationship budding. And at the very last verse, you say, if this ends badly, and you start talking about how, just in case and you're hedging your bets. And I said, so what do you want me to do? Like, that to me is truthful. What would you have me do in that song? And he's like, stay in the hope. And I'm not saying he's wrong, but that would make me a whole different person.
Yeah.
That would make me a whole different artist. But even from the earliest songs, I always had this even when I was trying to be optimistic, I just had this fear in the back of my head. And it goes from my childhood. I'm like, I'm a couple years into therapy now, and I'm realizing things that what should have seemed obvious from the outside. But like, I think as you say, you're listening to these old records. I'm thinking of these old records, and I'm thinking of like Unstable. You mentioned that song and The Boy Who Cried Wolf
Hmm.
um, were both written in LA, and they were add-ons to Slow Down Kid, my album Slow Down Kid. They were written in response to me getting a phone call from home. Your father has attempted suicide again, and I wrote The Boy Who Cried Wolf not about myself, about I was really felt I was supposed to be out there for pilot season to like try my way as an actor, and I got pulled home to go deal with a family emergency. And now I came home with songs, but I came home with those songs are not me posing. That
Yeah.
stuff felt like it was life or death a lot. And I think I'm just trying to unlearn those same fears, that same anxiety inside of me, and that's why like you see it in all my songs. But
Listen up real close. This time it isn't a joke. This is a real emergency. Believe me now. My luck has run out. I have very little to laugh about. Oh, please, for the sake of humanity, hear me out. 'Cause I am the boy who cried wolf, but you gotta believe me now. I know I don't deserve your trust, but you know I need it now. The past I could erase. I made some incredible mistakes. This is my sincerest apology. Believe me now. I am the boy who cried wolf, but you gotta believe me now. I know I don't
And then one more thing to end this long-winded answer is, I almost think you'd have to be insane not to be someone anxious in this world, especially at a year like 2020 when this latest album was written. I mean, maybe I'm better at maybe I'm more seasoned at handling anxiety, but there's always new reasons to
Yeah.
be concerned, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's something among the things that we've learned about ourselves in 2020 is that I think there are a lot of people who have anxiety and perhaps up until last year could handle it. And
Right.
and now it's all overwhelming. But you mentioned making this new album Mean last year. So was it all written, recorded during what are we going to call this in the future? During COVID times?
Yeah. It
Because
was
you did also release an album in 2020, which I'm guessing would have been done before all of this started.
yes. So I write in spurts. I found that works for me rather than forcing it. So I don't pick up the guitar every day. I don't sit at the piano every day, but it's there, and it's there when I need it. And 2020 was a year of need. So I finished Acting the Optimist in fall of 2019. It was recorded over one weekend, and then I I had a little bit of a mental health setback, and I believed that this album just in my warped sense in my head, I thought it was really crummy. Like it didn't live up to what I hoped it would be. And when I came out of that cloud in the spring of 2020, when we're all at home, I was like, man, these tracks sound really good. What was wrong with me? Like, so Wayne Durrell, who did a lot of my early records, I got a chance to work with him again on that record. He recorded it and then he mixed it. So I got back in touch with him and I said, let's finish this up. So he mixed it at home, would send me the mixes, and that came out in the last summer. And then almost immediately, I wrote the first song, which was "Been Changing," for this what happened to be these new collection of songs that just came out in a spurt. And I think back to this song, "Been Changing" now, and I think I had a feeling that I wanted to make something a little different, and at least in how it was made and some of the ways I was playing with my vocals and some things. And that song kind of gave me permission to do that. I find that I go through patterns of communal creation. So there's Aid Memoir, there's Sunlight Search Party, there's Acting the Optimist, and in between there's Bulldozer, Made Alone in a Bedroom. Mean, Made Alone in a Bedroom. So I tend to come in and go out of band dynamic and solo creation. And so this was that kind of same ebb and flow pattern.
Okay, because that was a thought I had with Mean, since it was started, done, and finished all during a time when we're supposed to be staying away from each other. Did you do all of the instrumentation and vocals by yourself, or did you do like some people who were making records? Well, even before COVID times, people were making records by, I'll do my part in my house, send it off, and you do your part in your house or studio. But Mean, I get the impression that Mean is quite literally all you.
Yeah, another way I think of the term mean is like lean and mean, and I always had it in my head that once I had this collection of songs, that I wanted to make it like I make my demos. So everything I make, for as long as I can remember, is demoed out before I do a recording of it. So Acting the Optimist has all those versions of those songs. All those songs exist as other versions, to the exact tempo. And so, like, the guy who played drums on it, this guy Ron, he was listening to the same drum track we all were, and then was like building off of what was already there. So it's very deliberate. and I over the years, like my bandmates and other people have been like, I love the sound of your demos. And sometimes the finished product becomes a little bit grander and
Hmm.
less skeletal. And there's something that I like the vulnerable feeling of the demo stage. So I did all this myself, except the bass line on Been Changing. Because that was the first song, I did send it to my brother-in-law, Jeremy Galati, and he played bass on it. And the reason I didn't invite more people in is because I was like, don't overdo these songs, and it was so hard to do. The first song on the record, Massive Headache, I recorded like what would have been a dummy piano. Like, okay,
We'll do this
I'll
for real
read.
later.
Yeah, because I hadn't tuned my piano. Quarantine. I hadn't had my piano guy come in a while, so and I was like, you could hear the pedal, and I really would like to record this in stereo. It's mono, and so I was like, I was gonna redo that, and then I did these dummy vocals that start the record and start the song, just ahs, ooh, and I was like, these are pitchy. I'll redo them, and then I had to stop myself and say, wait, no, these are supposed to be these are supposed to be raw and innocent and imperfect. So I stopped myself, and and sometimes I couldn't help myself and I would redo stuff, but most of the time what you're hearing is just my first impression ideas. So that was liberating for me because I can overthink things really
Yeah.
badly.
I mean, and that's often the best way to go about it. I mean, because of what I've done for as many years as I've been doing it, I've had the opportunity many times to hear demo versions of things first and be like, this is great. I mean, I've told some people that's done. That's done. Don't do another thing. And then
Yeah.
hearing the finished version, which I get it. They are supposed to be two different things. But a lot of times the immediacy of the demos overshadows the time and production done on the finished product.
Yeah,
Which which in
the
my head and in
Wilco.
my heart means I like the demo better.
I think you'd be you listen to so much music, so I totally agree with you. Wilco in their book, the Wilco book, had this chart of I think it was during the making of A Ghost Is Born, but they had this chart. They figured out after a certain amount of takes when it would be, they didn't know the song well enough, but they didn't, and they didn't know it too
Mm.
much. So this great little innocent part, where it was imperfect but not clumsy. And I think that there is like a magic part of where you don't quite know the song really well. Um, and I was gonna say, I had to put a lot of the demo feeling back into the record. The last song on the record, Simple, I recorded on my cell phone, and I always loved the version I wrote on the cell phone. I didn't write the lyrics. Usually I'll hum a melody, I'll mumble some words, then I'll write the words, then I'll record myself on my phone with the proper lyrics. This was a very different case. I had this musical idea and I just spit out lyrics, and those are the final lyrics. It was a very rare occurrence for me that I just like uh, freestyled the lyrics
Mhm.
out. So I loved the demo so much, but I fumbled one of the words, and I was like, I really want it to be audible, that word, and enunciated. So I re-recorded the song really crappily, and as crappily as I could without it being um, distracting. And that's the version on the record. But I wanted, it's not easy to do, to put humanity back into recording, especially now that most of us record in computers.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Which I think is also part of um, why some music can sound colder. Is that is that
I agree.
possibly a description that works?
Yeah.
Because it is going into a computer. You hit one key and you've just erased a, everything that was wrong or a mistake.
Yeah.
Do it again. And you can have you know, I don't know what the biggest studio you've used to make a record, but you'd have, you know, 4, 8, 16, 32 tracks in a computer. You can have 3,000.
That's where a producer is supposed to come in. You know, like it's the guy doing what you were doing and saying that was the best version, and the artist goes, but I could do it better. It does that. There's that vocal line that you messed up and that I messed up, and then the producer knows better and goes, doesn't matter. It
Yeah.
has so much heart, you know. That's hard to do when you're making it by yourself, but
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's something like as the years go on and more people have, you know, home studios and they can, you know, you don't have to worry about how a reel of tape costing a couple $100 and stuff like that. Um, like you said that you're always aware of going too deep, you know, taking too deep a dive into a take, a track, a song, and it's just that's enough. Stop. But when you're on your own and you're in your basement or your garage or your bedroom and it's not costing, you know, $200 a reel, you keep going. And you're not
Do
paying
you
for
know
studio
Arthur
time.
Russell? Jeff, do you ever get into Arthur Russell?
I know the name and I'm sure I've heard stuff.
Yeah, he was a multi. I don't think he's still alive. He was a multi instrumentalist. He did all kinds of. He was in in a lot of different scenes, like the television kind of Lower
Mhm.
East Side scene, but not really that kind of music. But he had a collection called First Thought, Best Thought, and I like that phrase a lot.
Yeah.
I think there's something to that, especially now. There's a caveat to that. I put in my 10,000 hours. So, and Arthur Russell put in his 10,000 hours. So his first thought and my first thought, at the risk of sounding egotistical here, might be the best thought because we're doing computations as we're writing that are cutting out bad things. But if I'm 15 and it's my first thought, best thought, and I maybe it's not,
Yeah.
maybe we still have more to learn.
Which is which I guess is the caveat for, I mean, it's one thing to be 15, 16, 17, 14, whatever, and be able to write a legitimate song that, you know, I think inevitably it's going to sound like your favorite artists. There's no way
Mm,
around that. And
yeah,
then if you keep at it and, you know, a year will come where you suddenly are yourself.
yeah,
I've seen that with a lot of young songwriters. Yeah.
and we're all trying to get back to the way our ears heard things at 15 and the way we were really felt things at 15. So there are things that the 15-year-old has that I
Yeah.
wish I had. So I'm not talking to a 15.
The 15-year-old who doesn't think twice about doing this, that, or the
There's
other
something
thing.
really magical about that
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
So in talking about Mean, the new album, which came out earlier in January, first of all, it is available on Bandcamp. Are you making, well, you made a very short run of vinyl. Are you planning on doing any other physical?
No, it's just vinyl. It was a short run that sold out. I don't think it'll in the future if I release something and you're interested in the vinyl, act fast. They're just very expensive when
Yeah.
you make such a small quantity. But I do love having a nice big tangible version. The album also is streaming on wherever people stream their music. Um, so, but
Yeah.
no CD or anything. I don't know about you, but I know I see your posts. Like I know um, you have an intimate relationship with CDs, but I'm not sure. Or I don't know. Do you think are artists still releasing on CD?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's probably not necessarily the first thought
Yeah,
anymore. And actually, odd little side note, right over this shoulder, that half shelf
I have to look
right
over
there,
here. Yeah.
most of that little half shelf are the Emmich.
Woo!
Odd coincidence that it's right over my shoulder. But yeah, so Mean, and I think this has been brought up in respect to your music, your records in the past. You have, and I don't know if you've ever actually tried to figure it out. You do have a pretty broad range vocally. Like there are some songs where you're way down here, and then I forget which one it is. There is a song on Mean that is almost entirely in falsetto.
Right, yeah, it's called They're On to Me.
Mm.
Yeah, that's another case. I'm not expecting anyone to listen to this record and be like, wow, man, this is Vanguard. This is like avant-garde. Like my little world, I really do try to make, little, I try to stretch. And I understand that might not seem like much of a stretch for other people, but here's another calculation I'm doing. Like my natural instinct was, wow, I don't think I should be singing this in falsetto. I'll change the key to make it lower. And I had to fight myself on that and be like, no, you wrote it like this. Just leave it. Your voice is frail like that. Just let it be what it is. But these are, to me, these are small victories for me as an artist. Anytime I don't fall back on like a habit or a pattern that is just like my go-to pattern, I feel like I have done something worthy of keep doing it. Like, I don't know, like I'm not trying to do the same thing all the time. So yeah, thank you for that was a stretch for me.
So one thing I wanted to ask you, and again, I'm not sure if I've ever asked you this on the radio, because thinking back now, when I got the Ben Travato record out and the Awake Asleep record out, I think I had you guys on the radio, both of those bands, at my old radio show. And that means I've probably had you on the air with me at this point, maybe a good 10 times.
Yeah. I think so.
Years.
I'm worried I'm worried that I'm not going to get invited at some point, because what else are we going to talk about?
Well, and I mean, if enough time passes, then somebody who heard this in the first interview is not going to remember it in this new one. You are known to some as an actor because you had recurring roles in pretty prominent television shows, whether it was Vinyl on HBO or Ugly Betty or 30 Rock. You also have done a lot of commercials that people have probably seen on television. I remember a Christmas one for Macy's that seemed to come back every year, that's why you make a Christmas record, because it comes back every year. and a number of independent films as well over the years. And now, you at this point, maybe you put this at the top of your CV, novelist, because your first novel, The Reminders, did really well. And then, whose second novel premieres at number 1 on the New York Times bestseller list? What's up with that? Am I incorrect in thinking that was Dear Evan Hansen, the novel, which had already been a Broadway show? Does it not usually work the other way around?
It does. Well,
the book is first, and
it never reached number 1. It debuted and peaked at number 2. However, the film is being shot this year, and I still am holding out that I'm still holding out when the film comes out that we might sneak into number 1. But no, it doesn't really happen like that. I think someone pointed out that Annie might be the first and only time that it was actually a book first. No, sorry, a musical, and then they turned it into a book. But right. No one even knows the book Annie, I don't think. Yeah, I can't take credit for the New York Times bestseller thing. It was such a phenomenon. This Broadway show, and it's still going on. It's going to be I think a pretty big film, but it's led to my life is really strange in the little dipping my toes in worlds, because they all a lot of it's brought people into the other things I do. So
Yeah,
someone says, I saw you on 30 Rock, didn't know you were a musician, or I read your book, didn't know you
for
were
sure.
an
Yeah.
actor, So it kind of is interesting how people find their way to the other things I do. And that includes like the writers of Dear Evan Hansen, like not knowing the other things I even did, being pitched to me as a writer, and then be like, oh, he's an actor and a musician too. And that I found out after the fact that helped me get the job, because they thought I really understood like the multifaceted story, which was like not just about acting on stage, but songs and how songs tell stories. And so yeah, and the reminders is the reminders film is still a thing that that is chugging along. So maybe one day we'll be talking about that too.
Well, that's, and I think I told you this soon after the book came out. I actually read it, and I thought it was fantastic. And when I say I read it, that in and of itself
I know what that means.
is high compliment, because I don't read. I've been saying for the last however many years, I have a bookshelf in my living room that has, I don't even know how many, just it's chock full of all these great, interesting, some classic music / rock and roll books. I've maybe read 2, which, so when I die, there's going to be all these great books, and somebody's going to go, and they're all going to be like the first crack open. But I can see that being a film. I wonder how difficult it might be to clear all the Beatles stuff, but
So I just received the screenplay, which I didn't write, and it's moving along. And I've been nervous. I've had it a few days and haven't opened it up yet, and I have to. But I wonder if they had to take that part out. I hope not, but I wouldn't be. I don't know why I'm saying this on the air, like, but I wouldn't hold it against them. I wouldn't be surprised, because that could eat up your budget so quickly.
Absolutely,
Just the music. Yeah. But thank you. First of all, thank you for reading the book. I understand. I feel very flattered and honored that. But yeah, it's probably. I have another book coming out this September. It's called Maybe We're Electric.
I was going to bring that up, because I came across that. I guess it's on your website.
Somewhere I'm gonna
somewhere it's listed.
Yeah. We revealed I'm gonna post the covers soon, but there's more news will be coming out about that soon. But I really love having. I don't really act anymore, although I'm trying to write stuff for screen, so I'm not completely out of that business. But
Well, that was my first thought when you mentioned the Dear Evan Hansen film. I was like, you going to be in it?
No, I'm not actually. But the I do love having all the various outlets. I probably have said this before to you, but sometimes you need a quick fix, and to me, like, that's music. It's immediate. I love the immediacy of music. I'm talking about just being a listener of music, and sometimes I want to go and have a long relationship, which is more of like a book. So I feel lucky to be interested in those things, and I don't begrudge it. I actually don't feel I don't think you should feel badly about not reading. It takes up a lot of time. And you
and
probably don't have enough of it.
but so this new book is the fall of this year.
Yeah.
Maybe We're Electric. So obviously it's done.
Yeah, it took a while, but it's officially done.
Don't re-record the vocals on that one.
Can't.
But so I was starting to think that, you know, you're three-pronged attack. You're a triple threat. Music, can't do it. The touring and playing live part of it. Acting, can't really do it in these times, but writing a novel,
People
you can do
people
that.
are, yeah, so stage acting, no, but people are shooting. I'm not. But that's okay. The live music thing is the tough one. Book tours, yeah, are all virtual, but that's okay. I don't know what you gain or what you really lose rather by not seeing the author in person. But music, I
Well, short of maybe the autograph session, the meet and greet
yeah,
part of it.
but
Yeah.
but
But there, like you
I
said, the immediacy of music,
yeah, the energy of
that has to
music.
be in person.
Yeah, I really have missed that in a way that I've missed just being in like a crappy rehearsal studio. I don't even mean the stage
Hmm.
and audience, although I miss that. I just miss me being with a bunch of guys playing instruments simultaneously
Yeah,
with other humans. Um,
absolutely.
so that's something that did you hear about the Flaming Lips
Yeah.
concert? Like I don't think that that's
I honestly, I didn't know if they would ever pull it off. Although in my head, because I've seen Wayne be in the giant hamster ball,
yeah.
I was like, they've got to do it. And if there's one band that's going to do it, it's going to be the Flaming Lips. I never
Yeah,
thought that they'd pull it off, but
yeah.
here we are.
Even that, you wonder how like it takes some of the fun out of it. Whatever. That's
Yeah.
but I wonder when it's gonna. It seems like it could be a long way out, but who knows?
Yeah.
But it's okay. Maybe this will lead to uh, this gestation period is going to yield some great art, I
Oh,
believe. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
And once, fingers crossed that there are enough venues left around the country for people to actually route a tour.
yeah,
But I think once that happens, the artists will all be like way above the bar. Audiences will be even more vociferous and into it, and it hopefully will be good. Because not for nothing, it was getting to a point, and believe me, this is not a silver lining for COVID. Um, People were choosing to stay home, even though somebody that they really wanted to see, even to the point of a lot of people having tickets and then deciding at the last minute. So I think it's one of those things that maybe a lot of folks. I mean, I'm obviously not the perfect example of this description of a person, but
yeah. I
for a lot of people where they could have done 3 or 4 different things in a night, including stay home and just watch TV, they're going to want to go out.
yeah, I think we are, or I should say, all art is almost like a victim of there being too much art. Like
Mhm.
we suffer, uh, or things get ignored, and because there's so much of it. And it's not just that there's so much of it, but what you pointed to is like the ease of access. It's
Yeah, I mean,
why get in the car? Why get the
yeah,
babysitter? Why get
yeah,
the, you know,
all of that
but,
stuff. I mean, I've
I,
I've watched. I mean, I miss live music as much as the next guy, and I've watched a lot of live streams in the last 10 months, including yours last week or a couple
yeah,
weeks ago. And I love it. I love especially the ones who are either rearranging their own catalogs to be solo acoustic or a few people, Jesse Malin being probably the longest standing one. He's brought his whole band into Bowery Electric in New York City, and he plays a show every week. Um, but I gotta get back, and I know every artist feels the same way. Like even the ones who have come to terms with singing into a little webcam. And you said it earlier, the energy
yeah,
exchange between audience and performer is intangible and hard to describe, but it's not there when you're doing a live stream.
yeah. And I was talking to a college professor, a friend of mine, and and I really think this crosses, past art to other forms of performance, because I do think teaching is a sort of
Mm-hmm.
performance. And he was talking about and we were relating over what a professional speaker, performer is doing, and not even thinking about doing in terms of pulling people in and keeping them in. So if one of his students looks away, if he was in the classroom, he might be able to walk by the desk casually as he's teaching, just to keep that kid on
Yeah.
his toes. Teachers walking around. And me as a performer, I might see someone look at their phone, and I might like walk over the stage over to them and be like, nope, don't look at your phone, look at me. Like, there's ways that we have a conversation that is just not possible over the screen. And it's more than a conversation, it's like a dual responsibility.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I can't do this without you. I can't do this if you're not here with me, so stay with me, let's do this together. And in that communication and that relationship, there's so much energy. um yeah, I would never say I'm a guy who really likes people. um uh but COVID has made me realize that that's not really true. I actually, maybe it's a certain kind of person. I love a whole lot of people that, if you told me it was safe to hug them right now and I'd include you, I'd give you a big old hug,
I
and
know.
I would
Yeah.
really get a lot out of it.
Yep. There, as soon as it's allowed, there are going to be a lot of long, hard hugs.
I'm just picturing that. There's two guys on the street be like, yeah, I get it, man. I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah, exactly. And I guarantee that's going to happen. I mean, especially in a city like, New York or even New Brunswick or something, you'll see two people hugging because they haven't been able to see each other in 10 months, 12 months, 14 months, 16 months, however long it's going to be. And you'll just be like, yeah, I get it. Yeah. One last thing I wanted to talk to you about. Again, since you're a triple threat, have you discovered any glaring similarities or differences in the three worlds, music, literary, and acting? Because in a lot of ways, I can see them being very similar. Um, for instance, a lot of doors slammed in your face.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but then a lot of differences because they are three different vocations. So there have to be some differences.
Yeah, there's tons of both. Sensitivity is required, a vulnerability mixed with what I said before, like a certain over bravery, like a heightened bravery, or a heightened self belief. At the same time, you have a self doubt. Access to emotions. If you're access to an inner emotional life, and an empathy how others might feel emotion. Like if you're not tapped into that, I don't think you could communicate a story in any one of those
Yeah.
fields. And I do think that's like the biggest common element is it's all a form of storytelling. So I fail as an actor, I fail as a songwriter or a singer and a novelist if I don't not only tell a story but like take you through to the end. If I lose you, I've failed my job. The differences are vast too. Like uh, you don't listen to what I was about to say, and then because I'm going to say it anyway because it's one of the things as you're saying you're like what you can't say that it's wrong. I was going to say you can't write a novel with other people, and I did just that. I actually didn't. I adapted it completely by myself, but then we edited it together, so in that way we wrote it together. But 99% of the time, writing a novel, like you're not both sitting at the keyboard being like,
Yeah.
and should I write the next word or are you? It is a very solitary pursuit, and I would say acting is more akin to like a football team, where if the tackle messes up his job, quarterback's going to break his leg. Like it really is a whole vast community and village. It takes a village
Mm-hmm.
to
Okay.
make a production. Uh, and so the solitary versus communal, and then I would say like the speed at which it can be done, despite what uh, Jack Kerouac claims at the speed at which he wrote On the Road, which like the story goes, he wrote it on like some like long sheet of paper and in like a long bender like um writing fiction, long form fiction just takes a hell of a long time. um and I think you've heard from enough people you've interviewed that a song, and some of the best songs, can be written in less time than it takes to finish your hot cup of coffee, and it
Yeah.
could happen like that. And then you put in how long it takes to make an episode of Game of Thrones, and you see the difference in time frame.
But yeah, so yeah, that was just because I'd be hard pressed to think of another person I know who's done music for, should we say, over 20 years now?
Oh
Because
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
Ben
yeah. Over
Travato was
20. Yeah,
99. Yeah.
yeah. My first band was when I was 15, so like we're talking over 25 years if I'm doing my math right. And I will say like about the fields, just one more thing that's just occurring to me now is and this is a real healthy thing for me as a human, is the sense of control. um I have a lot of control when I'm writing fiction or songs, especially if I'm doing the record like me by myself. um for someone who really needs control in their life, being an actor in a big production is an exercise in you have very little control.
Hmm.
um, and just do your little job and have faith. It really requires faith, and I think that's a good lesson, like to kind of get over yourself and say, if I do my job, we'll be successful because I trust everyone else on my team.
Yeah, and if your team is the production team of, a play or a film or whatever,
Or a
everybody,
band, like
or
it's
yeah, or
it
even a
works.
band. Yeah,
Yeah, it works on that
a
level,
smaller team,
like,
but yeah,
yeah, I always love that about like band life, is just like you're kind of hanging in the balance of the people around you. If they mess up, you look bad too.
yeah,
um,
absolutely. Um, so I want to thank you. And the new album, Mean, is out. It's available on all the places you can stream music. It's also available at, is your name first in Bandcamp? I think it is.
yeah, yeah,
Valemic.bandcamp.com.
yeah. And I always encourage people to go to my website too. Like I feel like you can be directed at all the other places as
True.
well. And I should mention, um, I put out, I still believe in email newsletters,
Yep.
and I like them. And if you like an occasional email, not an aggressive frequency by any means. I also have a newsletter you could sign up for.
Yep, at valemic.com.
That's the end of my promotion.
You can sign up for the newsletter at valemic.com. The new novel, Maybe We're Electric, unless something goes wrong between now and the fall, out the fall, right?
September 21st. Yeah.
Cool. So looking forward to getting another book on my shelf that may or may not.
Hey, you don't have to read this one. You already did it. I'll just keep it up there for looks, you know?
Well, there and you know, just to jump back to the reminders for a second too. Not only is it a wonderfully told story, but it's one of those things where like the child, the main character in the book, has, I don't know, it's not really an affliction, but has a condition that a lot of people don't know anything about. So it did actually make me look it up.
Oh,
so
cool.
I learned something from reading the book. And also because I've known you since you were in college, I could tell, you know, some of the names have been changed to protect the guilty, but I knew who some of them were.
Oh, cool. Nice.
And hopefully before the end of the year, fingers crossed, we get to see you live on a stage somewhere to play some of these new songs, which I feel horrible for everybody who's released a record between like mid-March of 2020 and whenever this is going to end, because part of what you sign up for is releasing a record and then going to play it for people.
But I also want to thank those people. There's a lot of music that got released during COVID that has helped me get through COVID. So I know it's not ideal, but I really appreciate artists keep releasing music, and I also thank people who are still consuming music. I use consume very broadly. It's really important. I always used to wonder the value of art, but this has made me feel like it's more valuable than I ever wanted to admit. You know,
I think we all know now. Yeah. I mean, anybody who still thinks it's just, you know, fluff around the edges, it's just like, what would you do with your life without movies, books, music, television? It's like, no, to say nothing of, you know, actual, you know, visual art, photography, sculpting, painting, all that stuff. It's like, okay, maybe you're not a regular at the Guggenheim, but, you know, art does enter your life whether you know it or not. And hopefully there's a wave coming of all of those things. I
just think art helps us make sense of life. It like, it's actually a tool in the way therapy is. I'm like, and Kurt Vonnegut said, the arts is not a way to make a living. It's a way to make living bearable.
Yeah. Cool. So once again, thank you, Val Emmich, for joining us today. And like I said, hopefully before too long, we get to see you live on a stage somewhere in Jersey.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
It all seemed simple once we had our talk. Yet another example of how I missed the mark. I thought you'd want to hurt me, but I wasn't on your mind at all. I imagined battles, the world attacking me. Am I playing the victim, or do I call them like I see? Still I don't know how to stop it. The visions of all-out catastrophe. So get up, get out of your head. Stop acting like you're already dead. up, get out of your head. Think of someone else instead. Stop looking at me, quit judging with your eyes. I'm pretty close to plunging a knife into your thigh. I'm sorry, sir, excuse me, I mistook you for another guy. Come on, get up, get up, get out of your head. Stop acting like you're already dead. Get up, get up, get out of your head. Think of someone else. The doubt can't get past the doubt. Anybody, 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 tell me a story, tell me a story. Make it something interesting, make it something interesting. The doubt, I can't get past the doubt. The doubt, I'm always talking to myself. I'm always talking to my get up, get up, get out of your head. Stop acting like you're already dead. Get up, get up, get out of your head. And think of someone else instead. Think of someone else. The doubt, I'm always talking to myself. I don't know what's puncturing me. I've been hooked in the wide open sea. It keeps holding on, it just won't get gone. I don't know what's rattling me. Taking pills don't bring me no peace. It keeps holding on, it just won't get gone. So where should I go, where I can feel at home? Where can I be, where I am safe and free? There's no peace in me. Somebody, somebody, please. I don't know what's pestering me. Got more bugs than a dusty PC. They keep clinging on, they just won't get gone. I don't know what's torturing me. I hear voices but nobody speaks. They keep begging on, they just won't get gone.